Question: how do $25,000 decoys bend a multi-billion-dollar air defense grid? You clicked for Evolution Tower, you're in the right place. We break down a three-phase plan some analysts call a coordinated Ukrainian strike built on electronic deception, low-cost drones, and a deep penetration fighter run. Stay with me. We'll map the decoy that broadcast a fighter radar profile, the EW jam that froze interceptors, and the precision hit that followed. By the end, you'll see why cost, timing, and spoofed signals, not mass, set the terms of modern air defense. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great! Thank you so much. Now, back to the video. If a $15 million missile truck can be spoofed by a $25,000 drone, what is the real value of the shield? Moscow's air defenses stack deep. Early warning radars sweep the horizon. Interceptor aircraft stand alert. Point defense units like Panzer guard key sites. The expectation is simple: the capital is sealed to hostile air. Multiple layers, one promise: no free passes. But then, a night arrives where screens bloom with contacts that don't exist. Interceptors launch on ghosts. Command nodes feel the data links drag under clutter. What looks like a raid becomes a maze. Seconds stretch. Choices slow.
None other than Trump himself is on a suicide mission.
Responding to President Trump's UN speech last week,
Authority of the world's biggest nuclear power.
On Friday, North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un described President Trump as a mentally deranged dotard. Continue the escalating war of words.
He may be smart, he may be strategic, and he may be totally crazy.
Here's the lever. Decoys can transmit a fighter-like radar signature and cue their timing to mimic a strike package. To a sensor net that reads like real steel inbound. Defenders must treat it as high value. They radiate, they vector, they spend. The lie forces action. Modern integrated defenses have an old weakness: look-alike returns and saturation. Past campaigns showed it. Harm-style shaping punished emitters once they spoke. MALD-type decoys pulled shooters off axis. Drone swarms in prior regional attacks poked holes by sheer volume. Different theaters, same pain point: too many real tracks, not enough truth. The cost curve is brutal. Cheap decoys eat tracking time, absorb missiles, and tie up pilots. Meanwhile, every radar that turns on becomes a beacon for anti-radiation hunters. A $25,000 throwaway can prompt $1 million shot and mark the shooter for a follow-on kill chain. David doesn't need a sword when Goliath swings at shadows. Electronic warfare tightens the screw. Range gate pull-off shifts a lock away from the intruder. False targets stack on the scope. Data links choke as nodes pass conflicting tracks, and the command loop develops lag. It's a hall of mirrors, and every reflection steals a second. Open a few seconds of timing and the grid separates. Search tracks drift from interceptor vectors. Low observable or low-altitude paths open like narrow hallways. Through them, small teams move. Seconds of timing and the grid.
American bombers and fighter jets flew off the coast of North Korea today in a show of force. The Pentagon says that it was in response to North Korea's, quote, reckless behavior. This unfolding shortly before North Korea had its say.
North Korea's Minister of Foreign Affairs addressed the UN Saturday.
What else could be a bigger threat?
But you know what? No matter what he is, we're going to handle it, folks.
On Twitter, he denounced Mr. Kim as a madman.
That's the first payoff. Cost asymmetry turns dense defenses into slow, confused networks. With the shield distracted and fragmented, we move to the three-phase choreography some analysts call spiral gate. What opens a door over a defended capital? Speed, stealth, or a lie told to a radar? Spiral gate runs in 3 beats. Phase 1 saturates and spoofs. Phase 2 chokes the network and hunts radars. Phase 3 times precision strikes to a blind spot. It's a SEAD/dead rhythm without the label, tuned for cost and tempo, and it starts by forcing the shield to talk. The risk never leaves. Defenders still hold long-range shooters and overlapping eyes. One clean track and the window slams shut. You don't beat the grid head-on. You make it choose wrong under noise. Phase 1 throws low-cost drones first, then a decoy.
It was the furthest north of the demilitarized zone between North and South Korea that U.S. warplanes have flown in the 21st century.
Then the violent remarks such as pouring, fire and fury, total destruction, coming from the top
At the UN General Assembly in New York City, escalating its war of words with President Trump. Here's Paul Reed.
Rocket Man should have been handled a long time ago.
At a campaign rally in Alabama later that same day, President Trump
that reads like a fighter on a scope. The signature pulses right. The timing fits a strike package. Interceptors spool up. Point defense units light their sets and spin their guns. Readiness burns fast. Emitters expose their bearings. The cheap wave buys minutes. Anti-radiation logic turns those minutes into targets. Once a radar speaks, it can be mapped, fixed, and engaged. Suppression missions don't tiptoe around emissions, they bait them, then cut the line while the dish is still warm. The play is simple: make the net glow, then pull the thread. Phase 2 tightens with electronic warfare. Data links stall. Track fusion splits one contact into 3. A false center of mass forms and drags fighters the wrong way while a quiet corridor opens on the edge. That's the hinge, movement without noise. Deep penetration tactics do the rest. Low observable profiles ride terrain. Timing clips between refresh cycles. A valley, a river bend, a rooftop shadow becomes cover. Even in a dense grid, silence plus seconds equals depth. Phase 3 lands the hits. Precision weapons hit pre-selected nodes tied to surveillance and power control, not to flatten a skyline but to blind and freeze it. A few cuts create paralysis that outlasts the blast. 2 MiG-29 class airframes could ride that gap clean. Not with exotic stealth. With timing, emissions control, and a cheap lie that looked rich on a radar screen. Air defense isn't just missiles, it's choices under noise. That's how a $4 million package embarrasses a $3.1 billion skyline. The center of gravity isn't the missile battery. It's the decision loop. When you flood it with cheap lies, hard targets turn soft. A 25,000